Good morning, Facebook. Here today, looking at Psalms chapter 51, looking at verses 3 through 4. You see in verses 1 through 2, David talked about the cause. He came to that realization, that revelation from God, that the reason why he hurts so badly, why he is in such gut-wrenching pain, and everything that he did, the things that once brought David peace and joy bring him nothing but misery now. All the situations in his life have seemed to go into hell in a handbasket. It's like one big domino effect, one thing after another in his life that's happening. And you see David realize in verses 1 through 2 that is not happening because of a situation. It's not happening because of an inconvenience. It's not happening because of the hand of God. It's happening because David chose to look in the direction of sin away from God. David chose to entertain and to give in to sin, and that was the source of the pain. But you see here the result of David realizing that cause, and you see the change. David for once in his life, he wants different. He wants to be different. He doesn't want to be the same man that struggles with the same thing, that not only struggles but falls into and gives in to the same thing, like a repetitious cycle, just falling into it over and over and over. David wants to break that cycle. He wants to be a different person. He wants to be a brand new man. And you see what David says here in verse 3. It's very similar, if not the same thing that the Apostle Paul says in Romans chapter 7 when he says, "Oh, wretched man that I am, what hope do I have?" As Paul talks about the war between the flesh and the spirit, very similar to what David's talking about here. You see how he goes one verse down. He says the only hope that we have to stand in those trying times, when the flesh wants to rear up, when we are tempted to look in the opposite way, contrary to God, the only hope that we have is the blood that was shed for us on that cross. The only hope that we have is through Jesus Christ, in him alone. It's when we look to ourselves to try to find that solution, that's when we fall. But at that moment, when we turn to God, when we look to Christ in his strength and realize that's the only thing sufficient in our lives to handle where we are, that's when true change comes about. And you see in verse 4, he says to the Lord how he's wronged him and his judgments are true. He's telling God, do what you got to do to restore me, to bring me back. You see, he's saying the same thing the Apostle Paul says when he says to contend with the faith. The only way he can live faithfully in the faith is to die daily, is to daily surrender himself and to give up every area of his life that hinders him. You see, that's the same thing David is saying here. I have to die daily. I have to daily surrender every area of my life that hinders me to God. But as Christians, if we examine our hearts, what is it that hinders us daily? And how can we surrender it to God today?